very powerful line from the gospel. Sir, we would like to see Jesus. Isn't that our quest also? That we would like to see Jesus. And yet we have many opportunities for seeing Jesus. First, in the blessed sacrament of the altar. Then in Scripture and in all the other sacraments of our Catholic faith. But to see Jesus takes a deeper level sometimes. To see Jesus in our neighbors. To see Jesus in those that we might not normally dine with or go out with. To see Jesus in those folks on the edges of society. The poor, the widow, the orphans. In the Jewish scriptures, it was always clear that the community's relationship with God was in direct proportion to the community's relationship to those on the fringes of society. If the Jewish community was in good stead, they were caring for those on the fringes. Today, I think we have the same challenge, to see Jesus and those on the fringes of society. And yes, we still have the poor, the widow, and orphan, but we have to add the physically and mentally challenged. We have to add immigrants and new peoples and those who might not speak English. We have to add, may we see Jesus in those who are suffering, those who are widow or widowers, those who have lost loved ones. May we see Jesus so we could be Jesus' hands. May we see Jesus in others so we could be Jesus' eyes. May we see Jesus in others that we could bring a message of hope to those most in need. In John's gospel, Jesus proclaims the coming of his kingdom in this gospel because it was non-Jewish people who sought him out, the Greeks. And that was the signal for the Johannine community that Jesus' ministry was indeed for everyone, that the Greeks were coming to him, that the Greeks wanted to see Jesus. As we continue our Lenten journey, may that be our prayer. We want to see Jesus, not just in word, not just in sacrament, but those that we encounter. Our church teaches that all people are created in God's image and likeness. And therefore, if that is true, we have the opportunity to see Jesus in all those we encounter, to see Jesus in those that we meet, maybe at the bus stop, on the trains, maybe in our own communities. May our prayer be that of the Greeks this day. Sir, we want to see Jesus. And how else do we see Jesus? But using our contemporary media to see an opportunity for prayer when we listen to the news, to see an opportunity to say, hey, God, bless this situation. And that way, instead of getting all preoccupied about the news and worry, we could make it into a prayer that the world news, the local news, God, pray for this. God, your blessing, your grace is needed in this situation. And slowly, we might be able to use contemporary media as our form of prayer. When there is a situation in hand, we say, God, this situation needs your intervention. And slowly, media and contemporary news, vehicles for news dissemination, is not the enemy if we use it properly. This coming week, March 23rd, there's a great movie coming out, Paul, Apostle of Christ. And it's made by a Catholic production company. And I was privileged to see it a few weeks ago. And it's very moving to see the early Christian community in Rome and Paul ministering to them. And more importantly, Luke ministering to Paul. We forget Luke, author of the Gospel of Luke, but also Acts of the Apostles. So Luke records many of the Pauline sayings. So I would recommend, if we want to see Jesus, maybe also see this movie, Paul, Apostle of Christ. As we continue our Lenten journey, may the words of the prophet Jeremiah instill in our hearts that longing and that desire to have a new heart in God, to have a new heart God is giving us that new covenantal relationship, if we indeed make it our prayer to see Jesus and those that we encounter, then this coming Easter season will be a very profound one, because we will have walked and lived the gospel. May our Lenten prayer continue. We want to see Jesus.